Good evening. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. I want to take time to thank Ryan and Jake over at Patriot Patch Company. They make awesome patches like this. I should probably take time to mute the damn YouTube. Dope. I pulled a Jason. So, as I was saying, they make fine patches like that. And like this. April patch of the month. And they also make cool graphic stickers like that. So, stop by, say hi. PatriotPatch.co. And discount code GS10. Whee! 10% off next order. Also, want to thank everybody over at the Firearms Radio Network. Sean and the gang over there giving us a home to hang out on, website to play with, and all sorts of fun stuff. And I also want to thank Travis at Buckeye Targets, BuckeyeTargets.com. Use coupon code RELOADING for 10% off. Travis is, and Buckeye Targets is the preferred target supplier of the Reloading Podcast. So, Jim, episode 199. Holy crap.
A lot of water was going over the dam since we started, Mike.
Yep.
Man, I'll tell you what, we're looking at 4 years of broadcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. 50 shows a year, etc. The math is easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like...
Math. There's no math on this show.
No, not a bit. Never mind the fact that we can break a pound into 70,000 parts easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to divide 16 ounces that way, isn't it?
Can be.
Not unless you put 437.5 grains into it each ounce.
You and your technicalities.
Anyway, yeah, we've gone through some interesting times.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if it weren't for this podcast and the NRA, you and I probably would have never met yet.
Yep. Yep, that's true. Definitely probably wouldn't have become as good of friends as we are.
Agreed. You know, without this mutual interest. But, you know, the passion underlying it all really is what's driving this as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, same for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, heck, sometimes there are times I swear I'd rather reload my ammo than shoot it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Especially living up in Wisconsin. A lot of days in the winter where I don't really want to go and out to the range. So yeah, I know.
Yeah. Never expected to run into the problem I run into down here. Trying to find a place to shoot that isn't going to cost me an arm and two legs.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think that would be kind of surprising, so.
I had no idea. Well, a lot of folks are shooting on their own property. You know, folks that can afford the taxes and so forth. This property I live on used to be a farm.
Yeah.
It's now a subdivision. Exactly. The only place I could shoot in this property is straight into the ground.
No good.
Well, can't even. It's too close. The powder burns would eliminate all chances of trying to find a grouping.
Yeah, exactly. Where'd your target go? It was that big flash of fire you saw a couple of minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. Anyhow, the only thing I did this week in Guns and Reloading, well, since I talked to you, I remember I had the shed delivered the day before last show. Well, turns out I needed to move the shed. I'm not going to get into the whys and wherefores, but I needed to move the shed, the reloading room, and it's now been moved and put behind my house. And slowly but surely, we're starting to move stuff into it. That, oh, listen to you, you dog. Guys, this guy is doing evil things. He is sniffing ether fumes coming off of his smokeless powder, his double base powder. He is no good. He is trying. Yeah, he's reminding me of the Jones that's on my back too. That monkey on my back. He's getting heavier every day, especially with the guys like Steve Pope and Mark Hookham tearing me up about it.
Yeah. I'm staring at some national match 6.5 Creedmoor dies that want to get dirty. And I got to get some 45 ACP dies dirty.
You don't even have a 1911 yet, do you?
No, I don't. But I have a 6-hour P250 and 45 ACP. I don't know if I've ever shown that one off. Maybe I'll have to get it. So that was as a result of horse trading. It started out as a Glock 26.
Oh.
And then it became a P250 Compact 9. And now it's become a full-size P250 45. So.
Isn't the 26 a Compact 40?
Compact 9. The 27's the Compact 40.
Okay. I never bothered to keep track of the Glock numbers.
Yeah. Speaking of, so you said you haven't done squat other than moving your shed, which is quite a bit. So have you kind of started doing a planning for what you're going to do in there?
Well, I have to take and get wire. First thing I'll have to do is run electrical wiring in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to take and see if I can run number 10 wire for 30 amp serviced into the shed because, I think 12.2 would just not be heavy enough because I want to be able to cast and run a heater at the same time. Cast bullets, which is 1,000 watts. It's 1,000 watt, 1,500 watts, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many amps that is, but I think it's like, what, 12, 15 amps? No, not 15.
I don't know. I'll let you know in a minute. I don't remember. Yeah, you
watch times volts equals amps, or something like that, or watch.
Yeah, you want 10-3 wires. What you want?
Right. Yeah, I'll take a 30 amp breaker that I'll put in the house panel, and then have a sub panel inside the shed. It probably only have 4 breakers at the most, because all I really need in the shed are some outlets.
Yeah,
and of course lights. And that's one nice thing about it, because I'm starting out brand new. I will have LED lights, so there won't be that much power drawn from the lighting itself. Fluorescent bulbs don't draw that much power anyway, but the point is the LED bulbs, they draw almost no power whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But this is from my reloading shed, guys, to keep it on perspective. My reloading room, as it were, to keep it all in perspective, because it sounds like we're getting into electrical wiring. Well, I'm going to. I have to take and document it all as time goes on. I've even got to dig a ditch from the house out to the shed.
Make sure you go down at least 2 feet.
In this hard pan, hey, to get down 4 inches, I got to use a pickaxe.
Yeah. Well, here's what's going to happen is probably not as bad as it is up here, but you're still going to have some ground settling. And if you don't go down deep enough, a couple of years from now, you're going to hit that when you're mowing, because it's going to come back up.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. Well, I would also put it, I know they sell wire that's suitable for direct burial, but I still don't trust it. I would probably try to put it inside of a piece of PVC pipe.
Yeah, you can do that. But honestly, after having buried this stuff and then dug it up a year later, and I know people have dug it up 15 years later, and even that old stuff does well.
Yeah, it's more just for my personal satisfaction than anything else.
Yep.
You know, I'm up here on a hilltop, and there's all kind. This is a hard pan, clay, sand, and stone. And yeah, I was planting, doing some planting last year in the front yard, and I wound up having to buy a pickaxe just to get down 6 inches.
Jake in the chat has a good idea. Says PVC because you can always pull new wire then. And I said more wire.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And plus, too, I think I spoke over you. Sorry, Mike.
No, you're fine. So here's a question for you. Are you planning on running that AC unit with anything else other than lights?
Well, I hardly think I'll be casting and running an air conditioner at the same time.
Right. But is there, any other sort of tools or?
Well, probably, yeah, because I use a drill press for brass prep.
Then you might as well 8.3 and run and do a 50 amp, because if you run a 30 amp, there's a chance you could do some extra draw, so, especially on hot days. And last time I checked, North Carolina gets pretty dang steamy in the summer.
Yeah, it does.
So I would do a 50 amp sub panel. And
that'll be tough because I don't have the room in my breaker panel for that.
Huh. You'll have to send me a picture of your breaker panel, and we'll go from there.
Just all right. Yeah, we'll take that off the air. We're getting deep into stuff that really isn't reloading.
So, speaking of reloading, I have. By the way, I want everyone to know that I could be at my FFL right now, picking up my LC9S and my two lowers, but I'm here recording for you all. Just so you know.
Mike and I were addressing that off the air, and it's about the passion the underlying passion that drives both of us to stay on and do so many shows. Mike knows that if he doesn't do it, the show doesn't get recorded. I can't find my stuff because it's buried, and I can record stuff, but I'm not as adept with Hangouts as Mike seems to be. Yeah, because I want to get back to using my computer. It's my understanding the audio is a little better from the computer than it is from this iPad.
Yeah, much better, especially with using the microphone. So, first question in the chat, Aaron Baldwin wants to know, what's the best way to get lube off cases? He doesn't have a dry tumbler. He does have a Frankfurt Arsenal wet tumbler, but I think I saw somewhere that you shouldn't use it for lube removal. Thanks.
Agreed.
Why?
Why? You don't want that wet solution getting into your powder. If your ammo is well made, it shouldn't get in there. It shouldn't be an issue. But if your ammo is the least bit not watertight, it's going to absorb as much water as each round can hold.
Yep.
Okay, to address his actual question, best way to get lube off? Personally, I just take a dry rag and start wiping them down.
Hunter 80 said he uses a 70% rubbing alcohol and sprays them, then rolls them on a towel.
Mm.
Oh, and by the way, the answer to your question was 12.5 amps. So.
Oh, thank you.
And I didn't really do much. I started to mount the RCBS press that I've got to a block so I can mount it over here and do some video shooting with it, and got interrupted. Then I tried doing 3 other things and got interrupted. So yeah, and then it was cold, nasty, and snowy all weekend, so that kind of killed my chances of going shooting. But next weekend. So now we're supposed to get 2 to 4 inches again tomorrow of snow. This is ridiculous. Can someone please get Mother Nature her bipolar medicine so she can quit this crap, please? Thanks. So. All right. So the first question was an email. It was from John. And this is kind of a rather involved question, I guess you could say. So I'll read the whole thing, then we'll kind of break it down. So he says, "Hi, guys. Just wanted to say I love the show. It's surprising how reloading has kept me lured in even after doing it over 15 years. I have what I think could be classified as an advanced question, as it even stumped me when I was asked by a fellow reloader. The question came up when I was talking to a newer reloader at my hunting club range. Yes, some hunt clubs actually have a range, and that's how they are able to have a range. It's depending on where you're at in the country. That's one of the things that you have to do sometimes to get around zoning boards. So he explained that after he flared the cases of his 9mm, when he would seat the bullet, that sometimes the bullet appeared to seat too easily. After he noticed this issue, he tried to push the bullet into case farther and it moved. He didn't crimp yet. He was simply trying to check neck tension. Okay, so that's the question. Now for the details. It says it was a lead cast turret press, 9mm lead 9mm carbide sizer with factory crimp die, mixed range brass, extreme plated bullets. John's thoughts and possible explanation to him being that the case has a slight taper, that maybe he overflared the cases. He didn't think he did. I told him to only flare enough to get the bullet to start. He was wondering if the brass could be worn out. Typically, I told him to look for splits, etc., regarding worn brass. He bought it used as once fired. I never had the issues he's had. What do you guys think? I think that I should silence my phone. That's what I think. Oh, that's 2 out of 3 weeks now. I am slipping. All right. So he says, what do we think? Jim?
Well, I say, the guy is overflaring his brass. That's exactly what the guy is doing. He may have one opinion, but I know for a fact that it's easy to overflare brass. I said oversized, my mistake. Let me correct myself. Overflare the brass. Mike, you might even have to take that out. But anyway, yeah, the guy is overflaring his brass, and what's happening is that's why the bullets are going in too easy. There's no way you should be able to take and move a bullet in a cartridge case by hand, and not unless you were, Magilla Gorilla or something silly like that, because there's just too much tension. And you're right. I don't remember the gentleman's name who sent the email in, but you're absolutely right, sir, that you should only flare your brass enough to get your bullet to start, not to seat.
Mm-hmm. So,
welcome, Jason.
Greetings.
Got a big gecko.
Echo.
Try it now.
Try it now.
That's it.
Wow, he's got a fancy remote and stuff. Holy crap, he's high tech. Are you a high tech redneck, Jason?
I am a high tech redneck.
Anyway, Mike, you want to read that again for Jason's benefit?
Sure, but Jason can tell us what he's done in Guns and Reloading first.
Okay.
That'll be easy. Nothing.
Okay, Jim Jr., moving along.
Oh. Low blow. And we've even got a oh boy. That was mean.
Yeah, but it was funny.
Yes, it was.
That's why I'm laughing too. Jason's following my example again.
Yep.
That's not the example we want to follow, guys.
True.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, Jason, it's John who sent us an email. I'll just read you the question. He has what he thinks could be classified as an advanced question. He even stumped him when he was asked. question came up, blah, blah, blah. So he explained that after a newer reloader at his hunting club range said that after he flared the cases of his 9mm, when he would seat the bullet, that sometimes the bullet appeared to seat too easily. After he noticed this issue, he tried to push the bullet into the case farther, and it moved. He didn't crimp yet. He was simply trying to check neck tension. So it was on a Lee cast turret press, Lee 9mm die, a carbide sizer with a factory crimp die, mixed range brass, and extreme plated bullets. The brass was theoretically once fired, because that's what the person he bought it from claimed.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim's thought, overflare.
Yes, very possibly. But the other thing is a new reloader probably didn't resize the cases correctly, too. That's another option.
Especially given the fact that it's a turret press, because I bet he didn't set the dies right.
Ah.
That would be where I would start. I wouldn't start with the flare. I would start with making sure that you follow the directions specifically on how to set that right. Because with especially with the Lees, and I'm sure this is probably with others, I know it was with my 550 to a point, the sizing die is what you set your overall travel with. I don't remember on the Hornady Lock and Load AP, but I know on my Loadmaster, and I know on my 550, the sizing die is the one you use to set. Everything else you adjust off of that, but that is where you get your base from. And obviously, if you don't size it right, then you're not going to drive the case far enough up in the die, and you're not going to squish it down properly.
Yep. Was it Lee dies also?
Yep.
And their flare die is just a regular flare die, right? So
yeah,
technically that die could not open up that case enough for that bullet to be loose in. It just opens up the mouth.
Right.
Okay. Yep, you're wrong, Jim. You fail. We have deemed it so.
No, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just thinking about that flaring plug that's in there. It's attached with the Phillips screw on my dies, and it's sort of like an upside down thimble. The thimble end of it goes into the case and flares it out somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember. I need to get back to reloading.
Well, my 40 dies are sitting behind me. Let me grab them quick. Oh, no, that's not going to work. All right, you guys talk for a second. I got to grab the other ones because the 40 dies have the powder dispenser and everything else attached to it. That's going to be a pain. So,
yeah, I know that some dies have powder through adapters too. You know what I mean, Jason?
Yeah, that's true.
Particularly on the semi-progressive presses and progressive machines, the fully progressives. I forget which one of what the name is for the fully progressive die in the lead line, because I'm so uninterested in it. But anyway, I forget what the name is, but I know it. That's what, if it's only got 4 stations, it has to be a powder through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, if everybody had retired guy money, then we could all Dylan dies.
Don't bother asking why this retired guy went back to work.
Because you're bored.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No, I intend to get back into it. That's what I had to move. I had to move my shed last Thursday, Jason. Didn't tell you guys, but I had to move it because of, let's just say I was told to move it.
Philly man came by and said, "You got to move it."
Yeah. Anyway, so what do you got, Mike?
I don't remember off the top of my head, so I got to look up the directions. And I'm looking at it.
I was referring to your dies. Did you pick them up?
Yeah, but I don't remember. I know this is the powder through die, and I want to say that's
Yeah, that would be the flare die too.
so. And if it is, I
turn sideways. That's your flaring plug.
Yeah. So I locked the camera in here. So as you can see, as soon as it focuses.
Yeah, it's picking you up. It's trying to.
There we go.
There we go. Yep. You got a little bit of crud on the intersection of the shoulder and mouth. But
I haven't cleaned these dies since I got them, so eventually I will. Before I use them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But anyway, so that's what we're talking about. Now, in that particular set, I could see that it'd be very easy to over flare those dies, flare that brass with that flaring plug that Mike just showed us.
It would over flare them, but would it bell them to where the bullet wouldn't get any tension in the brass, Jim?
I can't say, Jason, to tell you the truth. I'd have to see the situation, the individual cases and so forth, and the guy's entire process. You know what I mean? Because we're getting so far down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So
that's Mike Cedar. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I grabbed the camera. And so here's...
That's your universal decapping die, isn't it?
No, that's actually a 45 sizing die. Or sizing and decapping. Not a universal.
Oh, that okay. I didn't notice the carbide ring.
Yeah.
Thing's wobbling around like crazy, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I still don't have any way to.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to slow down.
So. All right. So here's your sizing and decapping. And then I have no idea. That looks almost like it's another sizing die with the decamper pulled out of it. When you look at the top, they look the same. So I don't know.
What is okay, wait a minute. What is the lettering on the side of those dies that look identical?
KO and FI.
Getting dizzy trying to follow your lettering.
That one says KO.
CP, a 45 ACP KO. Okay, what the heck would that be? The first thing, 45 ACP. FI, FL, full length. That can't be right. 45 ACP, I know that's where the CP comes from. KO or K0? All right.
So in the 4-piece die set, it's a carbide sizing die, a powder through expanding die, a bullet seat and feed die, and then a carbide factory crimp die. So when we look at this, here's our carbide sizing die. This one we don't know. We'll figure that out later. Here's our powder through expanding die. And that's the, as you can see, that floats down and up. So it moves up and down, and you can see in there.
Yep. I can tell it moves.
So here is
That's got to be the cedar.
Yep, and a feed die. It also has the ability to feed bullets through the top.
Okay.
I guess I've never done it that way, but. And then here is your factory crimp die, which puts a stab crimp on it. So.
Well, okay. That other die that we don't know, that sounds like a body sizing die. No, I mean a body, like it's similar to. It's not a resizing die per se. It is a body shrinking die, shall we say, to get the body down to the factory, down to Sammy specs. I know it's like, what, that can't be right because that's what the full length resizing die does. I know my 40 factory crimp die, it full length resizes a case with a bullet in it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it a tighter grip. That's on my lead eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That must be what that other die is.
I don't know. I'll have to do some research and see.
Well,
anyway, that's for another time. But
yeah, what, the next question then? You want, since the three of us seem to disagree on the answer to this question.
I would say it's more of a sizing issue than a flaring issue.
Okay.
The fact that I've actually rolled a case mouth over and the bullet's still seated.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't push in by hand. On a 9. So Bill's thought was it's a bulge buster for brass fired in a Glock.
I don't think so because those, you literally push the case all the way through that die. It's like a sizing die for a lead bullet, that type of setup. So I don't think it's that one.
I agree, but it's push through die is what you're talking about, Jason.
Push through. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a system, and that's a good system. But I agree that's how that works.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to go with not being sized properly. And that's, like I said, I don't know where the hell it went. I wish I knew where it was. But I actually have a 9 that I rolled when I was setting up my 550. I had the belling off, and I actually literally rolled it. So it was kind of cool. Kind of like a backwards roll crimp on a shotgun hull. It rolled out. And I still set the 9mm bullet in there and not push it down. So
that is some serious overflaring.
Hey, you're playing around to see what happens. So I wanted to see how far I could bell a case and see if it split. It did split.
I knew he found out exactly. How far.
I was pretty impressed, to be honest. But yeah, that wasn't going to get fixed with a crimp. So, but it could be a combination of both, honestly. If he's flaring it, and that's the only place neck tension because he's not sizing it properly. Could be. All right, carry on. Number 2 is Daryl. Having a difficult time finding AOL for all these new size coated bullets. I'm trying to reload Bayou Bullets 120 grain TGC 9mm. Can I find the max AOL for my chamber by starting long and repeating plunk checks with small seating adjustments till I find the max AOL that will pass for the bullet shape? I might be making this too simple, but can I test for AOL and add a small safety factor? Thank you for your help. A loyal podcast follower, Daryl.
Maybe it's nitpicking, but it's not AOL. It's OAL,
Right.
overall length.
Yeah. And technically, it's COAL. So.
Well, that's for the cartridge.
Right. Which is what he's looking for.
Okay.
So basically, he's got 120 grain. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with Bayou bullets, so I'm not sure what the TGC means, but we'll look that up while you guys toss around ideas.
Well, I got to go back on to read the question.
So basically, he wants to know. He's got to figure out what cartridge overall length is for these bullets. It's 120 grain. So.
Truncated cone gas check.
Okay. And he wants to.
If my video went off, I'll have to go back.
Yeah, your video went off, but that's okay. So, not
thanks.
Yep. I don't feel like throwing up now.
Thanks.
Those are some goofy looking bullets.
Yeah.
So your overall length, you want it to fit into your magazine.
Exactly.
And have a little space for a little bit of wiggle room. Your recipe that you're probably dwelling on is exactly that, a recipe. That's what this company tried, and this was their results. So find an overall length that fits into your magazine. Start at the bottom of a load, whatever load, and work your way up.
Mm-hmm.
And you're fine.
Well, to embellish on what Jason just said, because I agree with everything he said, but to flesh out a point, if you need to, you can also make it shorter than what's standard in a magazine. Usually you want to make your I started to do it myself, your cartridge overall length, you can usually make it about 15 to 20 thousandths shorter than what fits inside of the magazine. But if you need to, there's no reason why you couldn't make it a full 60 thousandths. Just to understand, you get into a point of diminishing returns, and you also could seat them too deep and get into high pressure issues. You just got to use a little common sense in that area.
Yep. What was the bullet shape?
Truncated cone.
Truncated cone. Yeah. Non-issue. It'll feed.
Oh yeah. Sort of like Winchester white box ammo bullets.
Mm-hmm.
So the maximum COAL is 1.169 for a 9mm, according to SAAMI specs. So, and that does not care about what bullet you have in it.
Yep.
I would bet that was drawn up or created with a round nose bullet.
Probably.
So if he's got a truncated cone and he was using overall length from, say, SAAMI, which was probably a round nose, his bullet would actually be a little bit, or his bullet would be set a little bit deeper into his case than a round nose. Am I thinking that through correctly?
I know where you're going, but I'm on the other side of the diameter from you. I'm thinking it would actually cause that shoulder of the truncated cone to come out further and engage the rifling prematurely.
Okay.
You see what I mean, Jason?
Yep, I do. I was thinking case capacity. That's what I was.
Well, yeah, no, that's a different end of the spectrum, or a different end of the issue. But yeah, if you see the truncated cone, to SAAMI specs, you're going to have more case capacity than you will with the round nose. Because remember, you've got that cord at the top of the bullet that the truncated cone doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Or that saucer-shaped segment that the truncated cone doesn't have.
Right.
Which means your round nose is going to be able to seat out longer if
Yeah.
they're all the same weight.
Yeah. So, Mike, what was this guy's name?
That is Daryl.
Daryl? Yeah, Daryl, go with Sammy Spec. Maybe a tad shorter, but you're fine, dude. Just start at the bottom and work your way up as far as your charge goes. Make sure they feed.
Yeah, that's one thing that reloaders can do is you could take and make, Daryl, you could make 2 or 3 or even 5 dummy rounds, and you put them in your handgun, in your magazine, no primer, no powder. And you go step outside, you go scare the hell out of people, but take these 5 dummy rounds, put them in your magazine, and cycle your gun by hand with those 5 rounds. If it feeds well, then you know what? Everyone's happy, including you, especially you. Load them up, everything to spec with regards to size. Just leave the powder and primer out, and then you will take and just cycle them through the gun by hand. And the benefit is you can use those dummy rounds, at least one of those dummy rounds, throw it in your die box. That way you always have there you go, Mikey. And you'll have a dummy round for setting your bullet seating die next time around, in case you ever need something to help you reset it.
Mm-hmm.
And another good use for these, tap rack.
Exactly. Training malfunction ammo.
Yep. Have somebody else load your mag. Throw a couple of these, we'll take, say, a Glock 17, have them throw 3 of these in the mag in different spots. And as you're at the range shooting, all of a sudden, you got one that doesn't work. Now you got to figure out what's going on. Tap rack drills. So, they come in handy. And they're a lot more fun than getting those stupid snap caps.
I've also used dummy rounds, put 5 in a magazine, and so that I could actually show someone how the firearm functions.
Mm-hmm.
I could let the slide down slowly, which is a no-no. I know that, but to let the slide go down slowly, so they could see the round being stripped off of the magazine. That sort of thing. Dummy rounds are pretty useful if you stop and think about it.
Yes. A lot more useful than dummies.
Speaking of dummy rounds, where's Jeremy?
I do not know.
That little booger. Probably got restricted again.
Yep, could be. His mommy won't let him come out and play.
Mm-hmm.
So question number 3 is from Braden. This is, dear gentlemen. Wait a minute. Is he writing to us?
Yeah, wrong people.
He must have meant it for somebody else. But we'll roll with it anyway. All right. Thank you for the excellent podcast on Reload. Definitely not the right people.
Yeah. Uh-uh.
I think he's been smoking something.
Here's the rub. I'm a new hand loader, reloader, and new listener. He doesn't know any better yet. Okay. I have a question and request. For the question, multiple reloading books and resources, single stage 45 ACP brass, once fired, store bought and reload. This is information for the question. So washed with stainless steel pin, tumbler, and Dawn Let Me Shine, not excessive duration, I think, and rinsed with deionized water. Fired from one of 2 newer Sig Sauer P220s. Ooh. Lee carbide resizing depriming die. Used Hornady A1 shot lightly at 45-degree angle, allowed to dry to make this step smooth. I know, a little overkill. No, not really. Tumble again to get the nasty primer pocket stuff out. Observations. After initial cleaning and the combination resizing depriming step, I've observed brass rings flaking off from the case. Obviously, it's coming from the case mouth. At the end of production, I do a case gauge check so I know it is the right length. Fits beautifully. Question. What is the cause of this issue? And he has his idea is an anomaly, low quality thin brass from that from the cleaning and dye manipulation is simply failing and shearing. Excessive cleaning, 2 cycles causing erosion. One or both firearms are an issue, not likely, is his thought. Dye is set incorrectly or too aggressively and tearing the case mouth. I believe I am pretty conservative in this regard. And he said his solution, regardless, I just ordered a brass trimming die from Lee to make sure my pistol cases are uniform and trimmed. Best regards, Braden. What do you guys think?
Well, obviously, you can't mix Hornady one shot and a Lee die. It's not going to work.
Why not?
Can't do that, dude.
They're both red.
Yeah, they are.
Really screwed them because I mixed Hornady one shot with blue Dillon.
Oh my God! Then you got purple.
Holy crap! So do I.
And I got
never thought of that.
Anyway, Jason, what do you think? What do you think of this? Is once fired brass. That's the way I understood the question. Where do you think that brass ring is coming from? I got a pretty good idea, and I think you do too.
I think it has something to do with the crimp, would be my guess.
Yes. Go ahead, Mike. What do you think?
However, that would be a good thought. But he says after the initial cleaning and the combination resizing depriming step, I have observed brass rings flaking off from the case. Not when he's all done. So he doesn't even put a bullet or anything in it.
Right.
So he's not crimping it.
No, you're wrong.
Factory crimp.
We're talking about the heavy factory crimp.
Okay.
That they put on those cases.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the crimp he did.
No.
Okay.
They hadn't crimped it yet.
Yeah, then that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what we think. We think what it is, Braden, is a corner of the inside of the case mouth. It's actually coming off of some of the cases, but it's shaped like a ring. I would bet if you looked at a cross section, it's going to be more of a triangular piece of brass. If you looked at a cross section of the ring of brass that you're getting, we're thinking that it's the ring of brass is being sheared off, or when the bullet is fired, not when it's being made, but because of the fact of crimping into a heavy candelabra. And so the ring of brass is being sheared off, but it doesn't go because it's tubular in shape and form and function. It doesn't go with the bullet, but it comes out when you start manipulating and reworking your brass. That's what I'm thinking. Is that along the lines of what you were talking about, Jason?
No, I was actually talking about the crimp step.
Yeah, at the factory of the factory ammo crimp, right?
I was talking about him, so I was wrong.
Oh, okay.
You might be on the right track now. That's what I'm thinking. I didn't understand it was.
I've been on that track since minute one.
Stop it. And don't think I didn't miss. You said tubular.
I didn't think they had track spec when you were that young, Jim.
What are you talking about tubular, Jason?
That was a saying like back in the 80s. It was punk rock. Surfer, yeah.
Okay. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm talking about the ring of brass that's coming.
Well, I know, because you probably live out in the woods and look at goats weird, but whatever.
We get off the air. I got a story to tell you guys. Don't let me forget it.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Jim, we're off the air. Go ahead and tell it.
Nope. Not as long as I see that yellow button. Anyway.
Come over the screen. You won't see it, Jim. All All right.
Anyway, let's get back to it, guys.
My thought would be, remember when we had the flare die apart, Jim?
Right.
There was the brass buildup.
The brass buildup on your flaring tool.
My thought maybe brass buildup in the sizing die, but given that it's once fired and all nice and fresh, I would probably say not. So I think the only thing that could be would be what Jason's thinking. Or I mean what you're thinking, Jim, with the factory crimp coming off.
Right.
Because they do use a rather heavy crimp usually.
Mm-hmm. And they also use sometimes, it depends, but I've seen some pretty heavy cantilures driven into the side of their bullets too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially if it's cheap stuff, like,
Right. They don't exercise quality control.
Yep. So Robert has a follow-up question. So why crimp? I haven't been and have not had any issues with it. Well, what we're talking about is, first off, the factory crimp. That's something you're not going to ever change. The factories are crimping because they have lawyers to deal with. And they don't need to have to deal with bullet setback. And they don't need to have to deal with a bullet coming out of the case while it's in the magazine, and now you have powder all over the place.
Well, the other thing is, too, the last thing is, remember, this is factory ammo we're talking about. And they load their ammo for every gun that's out there. For every 30-06 that's ever been made, from the 1903 A3 to the M1 Garand and to the Remington 700 and the Winchester Model 70 and whatever you want to mention, the Ruger M77, that round of 30-06 brass has got to fit in every one of those guns. So the other thing is, too, crimped bullets are considered to be more reliable than reloaded bullets. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say heresy, but I'm just telling you, in the factory ammo, they consider crimped bullets to be more reliable. That's why the military crimps their bullets. Every round they ever use is crimped, and it will never change. It's been proven to them to be more reliable when in form, feed, function. So why crimp? Well, most of us reloaders with rifle ammo don't do it. It can be done, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like in 30-30, you need to do some crimp. But in my 270, my 308, my 280, my 223, even my flow-through guns, I do not crimp. I don't need to. But remember, I'm making ammo for me, not you, not for Jason. I'm not making it for 7,000 different models of the same gun, same chamber. So everything's got to be maxed to the max minimum diameter possible, minimum specs. That's usually what they make their ammo to.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I got onto a diatribe.
No, you're fine. And yeah, perfect. Technically, I crimp every handgun round.
Yes, that's different.
However, the reason I'm crimping is to take the flare out that I put in, so the bullet would seat a little easier. Because, frankly, when you're loading lead bullets, full metal jacket is not as big of a deal because you're not going to deform the bullet. But when you're loading lead and you don't flare that case mouth, you're going to notice that you're going to start to have lead buildup on the inside of your bullet seating die, and you're going to notice you have a lead buildup on the side of your cases, because instead of the bullet shuttling down into the case nicely there, hey, it gets shoved in and sheared off. So, which some people don't care about. I mean, it's plinking ammo, and whoop-de-doo, who cares? But, or maybe they save this. Maybe they save it and cast more bullets out of it. I don't know, but I flare my cases so that the bullet will actually go in there without deforming it and shredding it. So, and then all I do is a light crimp, just to squeeze it back to level. I don't put an actual crimp in it. I just take the flare back out so that the case mouth is back even with the rest of the case. And no, I don't get the calipers out in a level and check all that. I eyeball it, but you know.
Well, Mike, what you're talking about is called the taper crimp. You remember, handgun rounds, semi-automatic rounds in particular, usually chamber onto the mouth of the case. So you need that mouth of that case, pretty well uniform around the wall of the bullet. And revolvers, Jason and I usually do what's called a roll crimp, where we literally roll the shoulder of the brass or the mouth of the brass into a cannelure that's or crimping groove on the side of the bullet.
Oh. Yeah, I tried it with the factory crimp die, and it doesn't work as well. Because the pistol cartridges or the pistol come with the factory crimp die, and I don't like it. So, not that I really could use it anyway, because in the 550 I only got 4 stages. So, but I tried, and I didn't like it. I did not like the result. I didn't like the way the crimp looked, because instead of giving it a more of a natural, it seemed to fold it a little more. So, and I just thought that was asking for trouble, especially if I want to do any decent amount, that if they're not settled in there exactly perfect every single time, there's a chance that I could deform the case mouth. Theoretically, it's not possible with the way that crimp works, because it comes in. So your bullet here, and it comes in like this. So theoretically, it's not possible, but anything is possible, given the fact that, if I really try hard, I can screw up lots of stuff. So.
Hey, Mike, I had a thought about reloading that ammo on that 550 with the 4 stations. You have a 5th station, believe it or not. It's in your single stage press. It's right beside of it. Set that factory crimp die in that single stage press and run it through there.
Mm-hmm. That's what I did. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't like the results. So then I just set the taper crimp, and away I went.
Mm-hmm.
Much easier.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Next question.
That would be it.
Oh.
Unless anybody in the chat room's got any more questions. Jason, I was telling him earlier that I got a call from my FFL, and my LC9S, my 2 lowers are in. But I can't.
That you stole.
Damn right.
Yep.
There. Give them away. I'll happily take them.
You betcha.
At $100 a piece, yeah.
No, not even.
Yeah, you're right.
So I just saw the LC9S on somewhere for $259.
Oh my God.
So if we go with that, I'm talking what, $20 a piece for the lowers?
Are they 80% lowers or are they 100%?
No, they're fully done 100% stripped lowers.
That's right. That's right. Because you have the
44.
You have yes.
Yeah.
You dog you. $20 a piece.
So Jake wants to know in the chat. He wants to know about flash hole reaming, internal only or both sides. I don't know. I've only ever done internal. Is there really a benefit to doing it from the primer pocket side?
You're talking about uniforming the primer pocket, and you're talking about deburring the flash hole.
Deburring the flash hole.
It's 2 different things, Jake.
Right.
I do both.
So when you're uniforming the primer pocket, does it actually do anything to the flash hole?
No, it just uniforms the pocket.
Okay. Because that's what he's just specifically talking about, is just cleaning up both sides of the flash hole. So,
well, I've done that, Jake. Or like Jason said, deburr the inside of the flash hole. Okay, but that's done with the stop on the deburring tool that I use, and it's that way I can't over deburr. I can't over flare it, not flare it, taper it. Chamfer, that's the word I'm looking for. But I have been known to go and deburr the inside of the flash hole on the primer side. But I'm talking about just barely kissing that metal with just make it a little tiniest, maybe thousandths, 2 thousandths wide shoulder on it, not just enough to knock off the sharp edge. I don't want to take any metal out of that, because then you start changing issues into something even bigger that you don't want to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Just enough to take and see bright metal, and that's it.
Right. So, yeah, I don't really see what the advantage. I mean, I guess.
Well, it creates a more uniform. It helps feed the flame into the case.
No, I'm talking about doing it from the primer pocket side.
So am I.
I don't know if it would be worth the labor, honestly, is my thought.
Oh, well.
Cleaning it from the one side. Yeah, I know when you drill holes in steel, you sand both sides to clean it up so it's nice and smooth. But I honestly don't know if it would be worth the labor to do it from both sides. So, like I said, it would be something to ask a bench rest shooter or something like that. So,
well, whatever you do, doing it from the inside of the primer pocket, that you want to do consistently. If you're going to do it consistently.
Right. So
that's why I say just a slightest little bright edge, break the edge, and that's it.
Why would you want consistency in reloading, Jim? I don't understand.
Yes, you do. Yeah. That is the key to accuracy, you dog.
What's accuracy?
Hell, yeah. You guys know it as well as I do, if not better.
So Russ Carr brought up another reason to crimp. Says he loves his factory crimp die, shooting a lot of big bore rounds. It's a must-have. Yeah. Or Casull, 475 Linebaugh, or that beast that Jason's got, 500 Smith. Yeah. So.
Well, I've had that same issue he's talking about happen with my Ruger Super. God, I'll be all right today. I learned to talk.
Red Hawk.
Rumor has it. Ruger Super Black Hawk.
Been drinking.
No, I wish I
And
had.
you need to start.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, Ruger Super Black Hawk, 7.5-inch barrel, and I've actually had the bullets advance so far, the cases jump off the bullets so far that it actually locked up the gun.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that.
Yep.
And I thought I had heavy crimp on.
Can you crimp too heavily?
Yes.
Yeah.
Say again, Mike.
What happens?
You deform the bullet wall.
And does that cause serious problems to accuracy, or does it or technically does it reform when it goes down the barrel?
It causes serious accuracy problems because in rifle bullets that are jacketed, you can deform the lead core, causing the core to be able to rattle around inside of the jacket. It may not be rattling around per se like a marble in a tin can, but it's going to be changing the ballistic performance at the very, very least.
Tin can.
Yeah.
Some of our listeners might not know what a tin can is.
If they don't know what a Campbell soup can is, shame on them.
Those are steel, Jim.
Go ahead, Mike. We've stepped on you 3 times.
I was going to say, so the veggie cans are still of a tin nature. And tin cans are very important. So how else am I going to fix the exhaust pipe when it breaks, Jason? Huh? How else am I?
Say that again?
How else am I going to fix my exhaust pipe when it breaks if I don't?
I think you're both drinking tonight. I know Jason's got gin and tonic in that cup.
Nope, I'm drinking water tonight.
Good on
you.
I'm lying. It's gin and tonic.
And Mike's drinking beer.
Nope, not anymore. It's empty. No. One last question for the night. Have you ever experienced? It's from Lazicki 87. Have you ever experienced a factory rifle chamber that is tight? My Savage 12 LRP 6.5 Creedmoor seems so tight that I need to hit neck turn on my fired brass. The necks are not expanded enough to let a bullet slip in. So after he shoots it, it's too tight
to let a bullet slip in.
So I get what he's saying. You know, normally when you shoot a cartridge, you can take a bullet and you can
drop it down in. You're right. Drop it down into the case.
I didn't put all my bullets away. I told you, but they're all away for now.
So yes, I've had some of my fired brass that I tried to put a bullet in. I can push it in, but it won't just drop in.
Jason, speaking of fired rifle brass, isn't that why we chamfer the inside of the case mouth, is to prevent that sharp square edge that we were talking about earlier?
Yes.
That,
there you go.
That I forget his name. He was experiencing that little ring of brass flaking away.
Mm-hmm.
By chamfering the case mouth on the inside, that eliminates any possibility of that brass ring forming.
Yep. And that's tubular.
Okay. I'm beginning to understand the context.
Totally.
Go ahead, Mike.
Talking about with the bullet dropping. 308. Once fired case, not resized. He's talking about that dropping all the way in.
Right.
If it wasn't attached to a case, it would go all the way down in.
Right.
Most of the time it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. But given that rifle, and given the fact that it's a specific, given the fact that it's a 6.5 Creedmoor in the first place, it probably does have a tighter cut. So my guess is it probably, I don't know, you shouldn't have to neck turn unless the brass is crappy. But I personally don't see why you would have to neck turn it unless the brass is crappy to begin with.
Well, here comes that dummy round again. What I want to suggest is, why doesn't the gentleman create himself a dummy round? Size your brass, leave the primer, leave the powder out. Size your brass, seat your bullet, and just like Mike's got right there, and see if you can chamber that particular dummy round. Because I'm going to go with Mike. I'm going to say you probably do have a slightly smaller than standard chamber. Not out of spec, but on the minimum side of the tolerances is what I'm trying to say.
Yep. So he did respond and say that it's brand new virgin Hornady brass.
So does the brand new virgin Hornady brass not chamber? Is that where we're going with this? Lazicki 87?
Yeah.
No, because actually Jim started saying that, Tony. So
yes, I was not talking about a tubular magazine.
Yep, had nothing to do with gin.
Nope. Jason's the only one that drinks that swill.
Jim drinks rum like a pirate.
Arr.
Because back in the old days when he started sailing, it was on a pirate ship.
Oh, well.
I didn't know they. No, I don't think they sailed back then. I think it was still oars.
Oars? Wow.
Sticks.
That's way back.
Might have been just sticks. I don't think they knew how to make oars back then. Back when they didn't have wheels.
So he says, no, the virgin brass chamber's fine. Was just worried about too much neck tension. inconsistent neck tension?
Well, you remember the factory ammo or the factory, they make their brass by the train load. And it's pretty tough to take and draw all that brass out and keep it consistent as you expect. So you're going to have minimum and maximum tolerances in there. And what they do too is they check maybe out of 10,000 cases, they probably check maybe 100. And they only check like one case would be the primer pocket. Next would be the case head. The next would be the head stamp. The next would be the head space. The next would be the neck diameter, and so on. They've got to take and they've got a minimum and maximum. They try to stay within, and that's where you're going to get some variance. And the other thing is too, when I buy factory new brass, I resize with brass every round. Why? Because I've seen dents in new brass. I've seen burrs in the case mouth of new brass. I've seen burrs in a flash hole in new brass. Am I muted?
No, you're fine.
Did you say something, Jim?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Evidently, we've got an inside joke going on.
Tweet. Well, see, this is why you need to get back on your computer so you could be enjoying all the conversation that goes on in the chat room at the same time. So, but yeah. So anyway, if you're not sizing it, I would definitely start sizing it. Theoretically, that Hornady brass is supposed to be ready to go onto the package, but I don't, like Jim says, I don't trust that.
Nope.
Trust anybody that says anything's ready to go out of the package. So, but I would start there. It's possible that, even with the Hornady brass, your necks are still off. I mean, Jeremy said even with the Peterson and with the Lapua, he noticed a little bit. So, and he did say he does full length size before loading. So, all right. Oh, so, yeah. Yeah, and Robert said, measure the new brass to the fired brass in the same batch, see what the changes are. So, do a couple of different measurements. Check, around the rim, check around the neck, check the shoulder, check through the body, a couple of spots, kind of see where you're at. And check the neck, both at the end and at the base of the shoulder. Just kind of see. But I bet you if you cast your chamber, which somebody up in the chat did suggest, that you'll probably find that it is pretty hard to SAMI specs. So Bill said make a chamber cast and then measure compared against specs. So I would bet, and I haven't even put a piece of brass inside my 6.5 yet. It's still sitting there because I haven't gotten any brass or anything yet. I've got 50 rounds of JCAA ammunition, 6.5 Creedmoor coming hopefully this week. So this weekend I got to get off my duff, get my scope mounts, get my scope mounted using my Wheeler scope mounting leveling system, and then get my carcass to the range.
Wasn't the 6.5 Creedmoor a round designed strictly for competition?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Competition chambers.
Probably.
Tighter chambers.
Yeah. I don't know which variant the LRP is on the Savage, but that would be my guess is it's probably tight. So, and Hornady brass is kind of a middle of the road. It's not known as a match brass, but it's not crappy brass either. So,
no. It certainly is good stuff.
Yeah. So definitely start there. And maybe you do have to turn the necks. Maybe. Maybe you want to look into the bushing sizing system for the necks and a body die instead of full length sizing. So that might be an option too. so you can get a little more consistency, especially if you want to tag gophers at 700 yards, because at 700 yards they're really little. So, all right, we have a review, a little old. It's from March 15th. The author was Tangle Eye, and this is from iTunes. He only gave us a 2-star. He says, from mediocre to just bad. So, I started listening to this podcast several months ago. This was, I think, before they started doing things live on YouTube. Back then, there was some decent technical information over this and discussion about the hobby, even though things were a bit disorganized. Over the past several months, the podcast has generated into private jokes and insults traded between the hosts. Disorganized discussion that has a hard time staying on topic. One host in particular wanting to guide the discussion to show how much he knows, whether relevant to the discussion or not. And worst of all, actually reading silly comments from those participating in the chat comments to the listening audience. This makes me want to just turn it off. I'll probably unsubscribe soon if things don't turn around. They apparently only have one host that even reloads regularly anymore. Instead of an informative podcast, this has turned into a disorganized private discussion of little use to anyone seeking to learn more about reloading. I suggest the following. Plan the episode and be ready for relevant discussion rather than shooting from the hip, having the wrong examples and appearing to be unprepared. Get rid of the silly juvenile insults between the hosts. If you must do that, then have a session before you start recording. You sound like 8th graders in the restroom. Stay on topic. If you are on camera, there's no need to comment about what you see behind another host. And for crying out loud, stop reading what people are typing in the chat room. Those of us listening do not know these people, and we absolutely do not care what they are typing unless it is a question or information relevant to the topic at hand. So that's his review. I read his review. I respect his opinion. My guess is probably he doesn't spend any time on the Reloading Podcast page. He probably doesn't spend any time in the Reloading Podcast group, or he would know about the people that are in the chat, because all of the people that show up every week in the chat are regulars in the podcast group. So I understand his point. And yeah, there are some shows where we get a little off topic. So,
Some,
well, you know,
but it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think our people that hang out with us have fun. I have fun. I can't tell if Jim has fun or not. It's hard to tell. Mike has fun because I see him laugh.
Mm-hmm. I will be honest that with the actual podcast, I have taken some of the extra stuff out now. Just from as I've been going. When we started back on YouTube, it was something new, and it's been a learning experience as we go. We change everything. We change little things every week. And, you know, I respect his opinion, and obviously I shared it. So I'm not going to knock his opinion or anything like that. I will say that as we've been going, we have changed some of the stuff. I have changed some of the stuff that stays in the podcast versus comes out of the podcast versus what's in the live show. The live show isn't for everybody, honestly. But for the most part, stuff that stays in is pertinent stuff that either, and I do cater not only to the people listening on the podcast, but also to the people that are listening on the podcast and then also come into the podcast group on Facebook. So, or on Gun Groupie. I don't know if we're going to do one in MeWe or not, but there's a lot of people in the industry that are starting a new renewed push to MeWe. So, you know, and I get his point, but at the same time, the whole entire idea behind this podcast when we started it was guys and women when we've had them on sitting around talking about reloading, like we're at the corner tavern or at the Saturday morning breakfast restaurant. We're not stuffy. We're not nitpicking. They're out there if you want to find those. There's a couple of them out there. So, if if that's your thing, then I understand. And maybe that's his thing. So what I would like to see is I would like to see this person, if he has topics that they want, send us the emails. And I've said that to everybody. If there's something that you want to hear discussed on this show, send me an email at reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. send me a text at 608-467-0308. Post it on Facebook, on the podcast group, or on the Reloading Podcast Facebook page. Send us a private message on Facebook. So, and everybody, you're not going to please everybody all the time. So, you have to pick and choose. And I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, we're not going to do a massive overhaul of the podcast. So I guess if he chooses to unsubscribe, and he may have already, then that's his decision. I respect it, and I wish him all the best in the future. So
he's free to start his own show.
Yep. So, and
Mike, you and I tried that. It didn't work very well.
Yeah. So, but I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. I'd like to get more. If anybody uses iTunes out there, go and leave us a review. So, and I'm not going to do what some shows say where, well, we got a negative one, so now we got to have some positive ones to offset it. No, I just want to have everybody express their opinions. And if there's more people, if the majority of our listeners came to us and said, hey, this sucks, blah, 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 then we need to examine.
Yep.
But as of right now, the majority of our listeners really love the format. They hated it when the audio sucked, and so did I, and so did Jim, and so did Jason, so did Jeremy, so did Trevor. But as I said, this is still a learning curve, and we're still getting a handle on it. A lot of the stuff that happened behind the scenes before when we were recording, nobody ever knew about, because we would edit it out and nobody would ever see it when we did it on Skype. Now a lot more people see it, a lot more things happen. So, like I said, if you watch this episode versus our first episode back live, it's a huge difference. So, but all right, folks, we want to thank everybody for tuning in, and thank everybody for sharing. And like I said, I do listen to everything. I take stuff to heart, and I did, make an adjustment, because honestly, I went back and listened to a couple of them, and there was some stuff that went into the podcast that was probably only relevant for the live show. And there's some stuff that I left in and still leave in as a tease to try and get more people involved in the live show. So, that's why some of that stuff stays in there. So, Tony, I am not telling you what's on the table for episode 200. Not doing it. Sorry. It's a surprise. Don't worry, Derek. We're not changing. Not much anyway. Just
Tony, you could tell us what you want to hear in this show.
All right. So tonight is the 17th of April. We record episode 200. I know you tried, Tony, and you failed, but it's okay.
Again.
So we record episode 200 in a week. I post episode 199 on Sunday night. So by the time some of you hear this, it may be too late to suggest anything for episode 200.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it might be. Not everybody listens to it Monday morning. However,
I think we should talk about reloading.
Are you sure?
That's my take, yeah.
Okay. Reloading what, though?
Reloading ammunition into a rifle so we can shoot more.
Okay.
That type of reloading?
Reloading rifles only? Handguns?
No handguns, just rifles.
All right. We'll have to look into that. I'll have to see if we can find an expert.
Jim might know somebody.
Jim, do you know anybody who reloads for rifles?
Not me.
All right, then. What the heck?
According to the review, not me.
Nope. Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So, in the meantime, swing over to Reloading Podcast on Facebook, Reloading Podcast group on Facebook, and on Gun Groupie. Send us an email at reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. Send us a text or a voicemail at 608-467-0308. Give us ideas, not only for episode 200, but for beyond. So, one of the things we will do is talk about a little bit about how we got into reloading. Kind of do a little bit of a nostalgia thing. So definitely. That is the one thing that you know for next week, Tony.
You might as well plan on a 2-hour show.
Well, no, if you're telling your history, that's millennium.
Well, when the Chinese invented gunpowder.
You guys are brutal.
Anyway. So. Thank you, everybody that tunes in. Thank you, everybody that sends us information, sends us questions. Sorry, my wife was asking if she could open the garage door, and I said no. So, thank everybody who uses the Brownells and the Amazon affiliate links. The Brownells is on the main page of firearmsradio.tv. The Amazon is firearmsradio.tv/reloading-podcast, and then it's there. And there's usually some cool reloading stuff that you click on and, and get you to buy some more stuff. Anyway, the other group that we would really like to take time to thank is the Patreon group. And that is a group of folks that send us some of their hard-earned money so that we can improve our technology, like the cool new camera I got that works a heck of a lot better than the old one. It was a lot better visually. Some of the other stuff we got around here that we're going to be doing some testing and demoing and giving away some of the stuff we've already given away. So, Jim Aaron says he likes archaeology, so he can help you dig up some of your past.
That wasn't a private inside joke, by the way. Exactly. I just send the zing along back to the reviewer.
So, just thank you, everybody that contributes to the podcast in any way, shape, or form. The nice thing about being a Patreon, there's a few different levels. A couple of them, you get stuff from Patriot Patch Company. But the biggest thing is, yes, Russ. Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Russ paid to listen to the Inside Stupid Jokes. Inside.
Oh.
So they also are eligible to win some of this stuff. We've already given away the Wheeler scope leveling system. I called it the level, which it's not. It's actually the scope leveling system. We've also given away a oh crikey, not the 505, but the newer version of the I think they call it the 500 now, the RCBS lower the 500 scale, I think it is. But we gave one of those away. And we've got more stuff we're giving away. We gave away I've got a bunch of brass to give away, and I'm getting more brass to give away. So I've got some 9mm brass to give away just for fun. I've got some 308 precision brass to give away. JC Arms and Ammunition is donating that. It's primed brass. So we're going to give some of that away too. Just because it's nice to have primed resized brass. So, and, just a lot of fun stuff. We are going to be looking at a Patreon only group, kind of along the same lines of We Like Shooting. So there basically won't be really any rules, that type of thing. So other than no selling stuff, but So, if you have a question that you want answered on the show, like I said, there's lots of ways to get a hold of us. If you have a question you need answered because you are doing something right now and you need to know right now, swing over to the Reloading Room on Facebook. It is just an enormous resource. It is a public page, so you can search through all of the different posts without having to join. And if you want to join, then you can ask for permission. The Reloading Room and the Reloading Podcast Group, if you're asking to join, there are 3 questions that you have to answer. If you do not answer those questions, we will not admit you. It's that simple. It is not much effort to answer the questions. So, and it's becoming more and more common on Facebook groups to have the questions. It's just a way. You have to think of it this way. For the podcast group, probably 3 to 5 people a day. For the Reloading Room, you can add a couple of zeros onto that. And the admin team spends a lot of time vetting people to be in the room. And the 3 questions take out a lot of the bots that people try and get in. So that's kind of the main thing behind those. So,
well, Mike, don't forget the Reloading Podcast Group was created as a closed group simply because people in the public group, like the Reloading Room, I don't care who sees my postings. Okay. And I really don't. And I want people to read this stuff. Mm-hmm. But there are people out there that don't have the luxury that I do of being able to express my opinion without repercussions. Some people are actually so careful because of employment reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's why we created the Reloading Podcast Group, is so it gives you at least an illusion of privacy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, folks. With that, we can't thank everybody enough. Like I said, this is episode 199. Next week is 200. Can't thank everybody enough that tunes in every week, that listens, that enjoys it. That gives us feedback, both constructive criticism and positive feedback, and we take something out of everything. And like I said, we take care. Even this gentleman's review, we'll so it's every day we stand here or sit here and come behind the mics. We're learning as we go. But just thank everybody. So. So one of the Russ said, I got blocked from the Reloading Room before I could even join. It must be the beard. They can't handle a sexy man. So one of the things with the Reloading Room, it is very, very family friendly. And even to your profile pictures make a difference. So that could be part of it. I don't know. It's one of those things that if you send us a PM, we can tell you why you were removed from the Reloading Room. But there's all different reasons. And it's not just, there's a lot of stuff that's cut and dried, anything that's questionable. The admin team is awesome at getting other opinions. So, and Jim's got an awesome system set up there, and the admin team is just awesome. I can't say enough about it, and they're very fair. So, and sometimes they're even more nice than they need to be. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So,
I think they're. Yeah, I can't say what I think they are. Never mind.
You think?
This is a family-friendly show.
I'm just amazed that Jason thinks.
Whatever.
I haven't created the Patreon group yet, but I will be. So for Facebook, hopefully sometime this week, and then I will send emails out to every Patreon for that group. Anyway, so what's next? Oh, yeah. Keep your brass shiny.
Keep your powder dry.
And squeeze. Don't yank that trigger.
You got to squeeze it. It's just a delicate little thing.
Sonny.